Good morning, class. So we've been talking about our unit, which is all about equality and thinking about the different ways that people think about equality, and we're working towards answering our central question, which is, what does it mean to be equal? And so we're going to be reading a bunch of texts that have to do with equality and ways that people see equality, and then we're going to be synthesizing all of these together for our final essay of this unit, where each of you will be answering the question, what does it mean to be equal? So today we're going to be reading the short story Harrison Bergeron, and we're going to be analyzing this story to figure out what it has to do with equality. And specifically, I want us to look at what the theme of this story is and what we think it's saying. So if we remember from when we talked about theme earlier this year, the theme of a text is something that we should always look for whenever we're analyzing a piece of literature. And so just as a quick reminder, a theme can be thought of as the common thread that runs throughout a text. So if it's a common thread, that means that it's going to show up again and again in a text. So when we're reading a text, we can look for this again and again signpost, which means that we look for repetition of certain words, phrases, or images, because that can give us some insight into the text. So each of you is going to get a copy of the short story, and I'm going to start reading it, and I'm going to demonstrate for you how a reader can use this signpost and look for repetition to try and find some insight about the theme of the text. So now that everybody has the text, I'm just going to start reading from the very beginning of the story. The year was 2081, and everybody was finally equal. They weren't only equal before God and the law, they were equal every which way. Now I'm going to stop here because I've noticed that just in these first 3 sentences, the word equal has come up multiple times. So whenever an author uses repetition, that's basically like them putting big headlights on that word or that phrase or that image, because they want you as the reader to notice that, because they want you to know that it's important. So I've noticed that the word equal comes up again and again just in these first 3 sentences. So I know that it has to be important in the story. So now, whenever I notice an again and again signpost, I want to ask myself the anchor question, which is, why might the author bring this up again and again? So I know that potentially repetition can be used for insight into characterization, into the setting, or into the theme. But right now in this story, I know that the word equal has significance, but I'm not sure what the significance is, and I don't really know the answer to our anchor question. So I'm going to keep reading and finish this first paragraph and see if maybe that will give me more information so that I'll be able to answer our anchor question. So now if we keep going with the story, nobody was smarter than anybody else. Nobody was better looking than anybody else. Nobody was stronger or quicker than anybody else. All this equality was due to the 211th, 212th, and 213th Amendments to the Constitution, and to the unceasing vigilance of agents of the United States Handicapper General. So now I'm going to stop here now that I've gotten to the end of the first paragraph, and I've noticed again that the word equal or equality continues to show up. And also, when I first started reading, there were a lot of references to the idea of equality. So for instance, when it said nobody was stronger than anybody else, nobody was better looking than anybody else, this indicates to me a sense of equality because it's saying that nobody was better than everybody else. Everybody was equal. So now that I've read these and I've seen that either the word comes up again, the word equality, or this idea of equality continues to come up, and I've gotten more information, I'm going to ask myself the anchor question again. So, why might the author bring this up again and again? Now, I think that the author continues to bring up equality and continue to bring up this word and this idea in order to indicate the theme of the story. And I believe that equality could be the theme because I know that theme is something that runs throughout the story. Remember, we said earlier that it's the common thread, so it's something that weaves throughout the story and comes up again and again, because that's what the author is really trying to emphasize and really trying to tell the audience, to tell the readers. So, because it continues to come up, I think that it might be a common thread, and so it might be the theme of the story. I also know, based on when we started this unit and we started talking about equality, that that is a theme that a lot of authors have. A lot of authors talk about equality, and they have a lot of things to say about what they believe about equality and what they think being equal means. So I'm starting to think that perhaps this short story, Harrison Bergeron, has a theme of equality, and that the author is trying to tell us something about his views about equality. So now I'm going to keep reading, and I'm going to read the next 2 paragraphs. And while I read, I want all of you to, on your copy of the short story, start underlining or highlighting or making little notes to yourself if you've started to notice these same kind of repetitions that I've just modeled for you in the first paragraph. So I showed you how I noticed this repetition, and I noticed this again and again signpost, and so I was able to make inferences that possibly those repetitions had something to do with the theme of the story. So now while I'm reading these next 2 paragraphs, on your copy, you're going to mark any repetitions that you see, and you're going to start to think about if you think that equality really could be the theme, and take it a little step further, and then start to think about what is the author trying to say about equality? What is going to be the big message that he's trying to get across with this story? So now if you look on your short story and follow along with me, starting with the second paragraph,